Hello everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Smart Money Show. Firstly, we want to say thank you for a year of the show, for listening to us for a year, but also listening to our interviews with finance professionals and accomplished guests. Somehow we've done 50 episodes in 52 weeks. But we are excited for this to kick off our rebrand to, as I said, the Smart Money Show. And we do want to say thank you to Riyad Rahman, the CEO of Young Asians in Finance, Jeremy O'Connell, our head of crypto, and Dylan Eilert, our head of equities, for helping us out behind the scenes today. But before passing over to Naman, I do want to thank everyone, our viewers, listeners, and our supporters for helping us get to where we are today.
Yep. And you may or may not know, if you've watched our videos before, that normally we only interview one guest, but today we're, of course, our first ever episode, and our 50th episode at the same time. We've got 4 professional guests on for today, and I don't think I can do their introductions any justice. So, Ivan, we'll start with you, and then everyone can introduce themselves.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be on the show. I'm Ivan Istankov, private banking and wealth management at Barclays. So yeah, good to be here.
Sure. Thanks for having me, and I'm glad I was the catalyst to more professional guests joining this initiative. So I'm Samantha, and I work at Bloomberg. I help asset managers on the buy side from all teams use the Bloomberg technology and data.
We could skip us, luckily. Over to you.
Thanks for having me as well. My name is Nicole. I work at JP Morgan. I work in the global private market sales team, so primarily working with alternative clients such as private equity firms, real estate, venture capital, providing all post-trade operations such as custody, depot, fund admin, as well as structured financing.
Hi, my name is Harry Bullen, and thanks again for hosting this. It's amazing. And I work at a US investment bank, mid-market, and I work in public M&A and ECM.
Amazing. So to kind of break down what we'll be doing today. So normally we highlight the journeys of our guests, and we'll be doing that a little bit at the start, but we're also going to be talking about some important topics that are really key to students to succeed within financial services right now. So to kind of kick things off with actually getting to where you all are now, if that's okay. First topic of the discussion is actually breaking into finance. So I want to kind of give that to the table, and whoever wants to jump in, and then we'll go around. But can you guys take us through your career journey after graduation?
Ladies first.
Yeah, BloomPay. It's usually
I've got
first.
quite the story. So I actually was introduced to the university through A-levels. So I did their financial services course alongside my BTEC. And once I finished that, I went to uni, and here I am at LIBF, right? So I did the finance, investment and risk degree, graduated in 2020. Applying to companies was not easy during 2020, as I'm sure it's only gotten worse now. But breaking in, my first role was at Santander Asset Management as an investment risk analyst, where I was very much diving in and out of Excel, producing reports. The PMs would call me, get me to reconcile the data, making sure everything's matching up, making sure all the risk limits were in line. And then moving away from that, I wanted to talk and engage with clients on the buy side. So I moved across to Vanguard as a client services associate there, helping retail side. So pensions, ISAs, and all the works in terms of nitty-gritty fixed income funds and training internal and external stakeholders there. And then I missed the technical side and the fast-moving tech, to be honest with you. So I moved across to Bloomberg, where I'm now reaching about 1 year and 9 months, so not far off 2 years. Just going to approach April for that. So that's my journey.
Amazing.
So I've been at JP for about 1 year and 4 months, so just under 1.5 years. I graduated from the University of Edinburgh in 2023, so doesn't feel like that long ago. But I also studied Spanish and philosophy, so really not in the realm of economics or maths at all. I always knew that I was sort of interested in sales. My career journey started out as a fashion designer up until like the age of 19, and then I started to attend, the usual like trading societies, economics. And I was like, oh, what's this all about? Learn about markets. Did my little spring internship with Lazard, HSBC, and Fidelity. Unfortunately, didn't get those converted, but ended up landing an internship at JP in the global markets division on the sales side. I interned in futures and options, execution sales, and actually completely completely opposite to you. I was like, I'm not sure about this fast movement. Like, it's just a bit too much for me. I realised that I was a bit less kind of execution and analytical and critical thinking focused. Now it's way more like, I want to be sales, I want to be in front of people, I want to be pitching. So they invited me back the following year for another internship in sales, and now I sit in the global private markets team, as I mentioned, working with PE clients. So yeah, I've been in there all a year and a half and super happy.
I think my story would probably be very relevant for quite a lot of the listeners, because when I came, because I'm originally from Bulgaria, so I came to the UK for my bachelor's degree, right? So when I came, I genuinely had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do, as I would imagine quite a lot of people listening would be in the same situation. So I decided to sign up for a business degree because it was obviously quite a safe path in the sense that it could give you quite a lot of options. And in the first year when I was in uni, I was just exploring, really. So I had the idea for finance on the back of my mind coming from my uncle, actually, because he's a proprietary trader. So that kind of brought the idea to my mind initially. But I'd probably first year of uni wasn't really that deep into it. So when it came to second year, everyone started talking about management consulting and placements, and everyone talking about these buzzwords. So I was like, that sounds interesting. I'll probably give it a go, see what happens. And yeah, thankfully managed to secure a 1-year placement with a company called Atkins. So I was there for a year, which was very interesting. But actually, a few months before I joined this placement, I was actually getting quite a lot into finance. So I did like a quantitative research with my uni, then I did a spring week with St. James's Place, and then I was just getting naturally more interested in it. So I was just getting more reading about finance, reading white papers, the news and everything. And it just kind of happened that way, that for me, the placement, I knew when my placement was about to finish, I would have the summer off after that, just because that was the way it was structured time-wise. So I was just thinking, you know what, I'm going to give it a go, see what happens if I can actually make it to finance, because I naturally developed quite a lot of interest in it. So I did build up some knowledge. So I was like, I'll give it a go, see what happens. And yeah, thankfully managed to secure a summer internship with Barclays in their private bank and wealth management, which was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. I spent about 10 weeks there, give or take. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. So thankfully, at the end, they offered me to come back. So yeah, I've been there at the bank, same private bank and wealth management for just under a year now.
Do you want the short one or the long version?
Whatever you'd like.
I'll be as short and succinct as I can. So graduated from Newcastle University with undergrad and masters in maths. Started my own business while I was at uni. Tried to carry that on for a year after, but then needed more capital. Didn't have the capital. I was also applying for jobs as well at the same time, wanted to get into something in investments. So I got a middle office role at a global asset manager. Was there for just under 2 years. Got a front office role at another asset manager, which was really cool. Best job I ever had. But then there was a restructure happening internally. I was like, well, where does this put my future? Because I would have been head of UK, whatever, at the age of like 24, which would have been sounded sick. But so anyway, so I was like, right, if I might just make a jump now. So I made a jump to audit at a mid-tier firm, because I was like, IB is kind of like the main goal. Because I thought I might secure it with so I actually did another master as well. So I was working my second job in corporate finance. So did that, thought it'd help me secure an interview. I got one interview, and usually I smash interviews, didn't smash it. And then, so I was like, I'm messed up now, I'm fucked. Because the reason was because I actually did really badly in my A-levels. Badly compared to what you need to get into whatever. And then I was like, right. So so I was a mid-tier audit, hated it. I said I'd never do audit, but here I am doing audit. Literally after less than a year of being there, I got poached by a big 4 firm to do audit there instead. I was like, I'll take it, it's an early promotion as well. So I went, did that, did my 3 years of audit. As soon as I qualified, got an internal move to a corporate finance team at the big 4 firm. And then I was there for a few months, and then I was like, this is the time to jump ship and go into IB finally. So I made the move to IB, work for a mid-market firm right now. Working, like I said, in public M&A and ECM, so just UK stuff really. And yeah, been there for a few years now and looking to get the hell out.
Well, that's just amazing. So many people, we've got 4 people with such a, I guess, a wide range of experiences. But then I heard a few keywords you guys will drop in, maybe like spring internships, placements, and so on and so forth. So can you guys talk to me about what was the hiring process like for, I guess, the division you've chosen, or like from when you were a student? So I guess
I'm the worst person to ask because I did not get any. I didn't get to.
I
Any
think just in your
assessment
current
centres
role
or
as well, like what was that hiring process like? How did you sort of handle those interviews?
I've
to
been
everyone?
part of
Yeah.
a grad process. I can
Yeah.
talk about that. Like, so, I mean, general grad processes are similar to spring weeks and interns anyway. So generally, you have the application form which you need to fill out. I always say to people, try to tailor that a bit. And you can also use your uni experience as well. I think a lot of people think, oh, I haven't done this in a job. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You can actually use a lot of things that you do at university, just make them applicable to the answer that you're giving. Also do a lot of research in terms of, they always have a careers page. They have a lot of testimonials. I always used to drop names in. I know that sounds cheesy as fuck, but I used to say like someone, this person said this. I was like, oh yeah, I resonate with what so-and-so said.
Yeah,
da, da,
yeah.
da, da. Just to make it look like you've actually read the thing and you're not copy and paste it.
I'm going to use you guys in my application forms as well now. I resonate with what was said here.
But, and then, yeah, typically you do that, and then you have to do your tests, which I was really good at the test, apart from the verbal reasoning. I was really bad at that.
Right.
So basically I bought this thing called, I think it was called Assessment Day. And it's gone up in price now, but it's like, if you buy that, you get like a bulk. And I just practiced like my verbal reasoning.
Yeah.
So I smashed out all them tests. Then you get invited to assessment centre, and then you have group tasks and all that stuff you have to do. And in group tasks, I think the main thing that I tell people to do is listen to other people's perspectives. I think a lot of time people, what they want to do, they want to impose themselves and stuff like that. But what I tend to say is, if you know someone's not speaking, just say, oh, what do you think about this? Just to get them involved in the situation.
That's so true. I really resonate with that with assessment centres. I remember going to like a few Spring Insights and going to the careers fairs, and they were like, we actually look out for the one that includes people back into the discussion in the assessment centres, and it's very key that you're in tune with all opinions around the table and can take that on. And that's what potentially can stand out. It can be the smallest as that reason, as to, okay, you were kind of running away with your thoughts and wanted to maybe get everyone on board with your way of thinking of the task and get that presented, but perhaps you're missing out the perspectives that could push the business further if in whatever case study you're given. So that's true.
Yeah, I think for me, it's actually a very good question, because since I started working in finance, quite a lot of students just reach out to me trying to get a bit of insight, which is a great thing to do. And I always tell them one thing about how to succeed in an application, and that is be specific, right? When you talk about things, you need to be specific. So to give an example, so if you're doing your application, you're kind of looking for things that would resonate with you, and you're kind of trying to set yourself apart, right? So I think quite a lot of topics around the big companies, especially, they overlapped. So quite a lot of companies are focused on things like, diversity and inclusion, sustainability, things like that. So there is always some initiatives going on around that space. So what I always tell people is, if you want to talk about, let's say, diversity and inclusion, it's actually much more useful if you find some specific initiative this company, or even better, this division that you're applying for, are doing. Because if in your application you're saying, well, I'm looking at your company and they're saying that we are building a diverse workforce, and you just mentioned that it's not really separating, because every single company is doing that, right? But on the other way, if you go in about, well, look, I actually saw that your company is setting up, for example, a Latino employee resource network, and I am coming from South America, so this really resonates with me, because I will be able to meet a lot of people from my background, which will be an amazing experience. So this is really like the place where you actually separate yourself, because you just need to be specific about what you're really aligning to. So that's always my advice that I give to students.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I used that for my JP interview.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, and I think, Norman, we've spoken about this before, the idea of having an opinion. So whether you're a sort of interviewing, whether it's for IBD or markets or whatever division, a lot of the time the interviewer, whether it's the hire view process or whether it's the assessment centre, they're going to ask you to talk about a news story every single time or a stock pitch.
But it's quite
And
common,
like
yeah.
I can be like, oh, you know, they'll ask me what happened. And I'm like, oh, oil went up by, I don't know, $60 last week. And that's all people usually know. And then when the interviewer's like, okay, Nicole, so what do you think is going to happen next? I'm like, oh, I read the Financial Times back to front, but I haven't actually formed an opinion about where I think the stock is going to go or the asset class is going to move. So I feel like students, sometimes they fall and they lack on just forming their own opinion. So I think that is a huge gap as to why people don't convert interviews into jobs.
No,
because people want idea generations, right? That's why they're going to hire you.
No, it's true. Because I think, to that point, quite a lot of people are just kind of in interviews a little bit scared to have an opinion, right? Because they're like, oh, my opinion is probably going to be wrong. But in reality, especially when it comes to markets, no one really knows what is going to happen, right? So it's just about having the view, because your interviewer, he or she doesn't really know what's going to happen as well. So it's completely fine to have a different opinion to your interview.
But as long as you've thought about your opinion, it's no point just giving an opinion and be like, yeah, but like, what is the context behind that? You need to form that side as well. But that's a really good point on the opinion. Yeah. And I think what I usually say to people as well is, so anyone can read the news for like the last 2 days when you have an interview coming up. But to me, that doesn't show your full-on interest in that thing specifically for over a period of time. You can tell someone when they've been following markets for a period of time, or just a week just for an interview. So I always tell people to try and find a big news story that maybe happened a couple of years ago. So in my job, obviously we do M&A. I think, right, what big M&A transaction an industry that first you like, and second of all, something that happened maybe like 3-4 years ago, maybe 5-10 years ago, whatever it is. And if you pick that, it shows that you've actually been following this industry for slightly longer, and you might have more insight on it. There'll be a lot more. If you do something in the last 2 days, there won't be much opinion out in the market on it anyway. If you've done something 10 years ago, there'll be a fuckload of shit, and you can talk about the whole case study.
Really good advice. What a way to kick it off. And to be honest, with yourself saying you didn't convert your Springs, I didn't convert my UBS, and I found out quite recently, and it's good to know it's not the be all and end all, but talking about, not just having the facts, but having an opinion. That's why I think I messed up in my interview, because I just memorized their 2024 outlook, and I was like, or 2025 outlook, forgive me, and I was like, right, okay, so they think copper's doing da-da-da, and they think et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, I just rattled that off in the interview, but then I didn't give my kind of counter argument on it or my evaluation. I think that's where I felt. So that's really helpful advice. I think I actually want to talk a little bit more about kind of your opinions on more stuff as well, if that's okay. So we want to move on to the next segment, which is discussing necessary skills and qualities, whether that's as a current in a current role, in your current role, or also as a student trying to break into finance. So we'll start with yourself, Harry. You do obviously investment banking. Could you talk us through some of the key skills and qualities that are needed for someone to kind of succeed in your role in specific division? And then obviously we'll open it up to the table as well.
So firstly, I think the technical side that most people think is the most important. I actually don't think it's the most important, but you do need it. You need fundamentals in terms of being able to do technical stuff. But a lot of that stuff actually is quite logical. So if you have like a sort of base level of logic, you'll be fine. And that is usually evident through your degree, you've gone to a decent uni, whatever it is. So that usually comes from there. Now, in terms of the sort of the soft skills, which to me are more important than anything, is attitude and sort of that proactiveness. Proactiveness and attitude can get you so much further in developing relationships. Is something that is, I think, the best skill to have. Actually, that's a lie. The best skill, I say, is language. Different languages can get you any job in the world, whatever you want, and can get you into any room if you know that specific language. That is key, and then develop relationships, and then just being proactive, and you have a can-do attitude. I think that is above all your technical stuff. You obviously need that, especially in my role, but just having that other stuff can really help you excel and stand out and get you early promotions.
Exactly. And I want to back up on that, because to be perfectly honest, in the role I sit, I'm quite senior, and I only genuinely have time for conversations where maybe someone wants to reach out and they need my specialist expertise, or maybe I'm training someone. And for me, what's going to stand out in them coming and approaching me is that personable side. Is like, can you actually have a conversation with me? Have you listened and heard what I've said, rather than just maybe going in with, okay, I need A, B, C, D, and that's all I need, and I'm going to move on. You know, it's like, are you going to be a transactional person, or be able to read the room and have some emotional intelligence and how you manage yourself professionally? I think that's so key. And it's a rare skill set in technical fields. But I'll be perfectly honest, like I speak to product managers and they're very socially awkward. God forbid you try and engage them on small talk.
I thought it was just me.
No, girl.
They'd be fucked.
I speak to top modelers every day, and they're just
I'm
like,
trying to crack jokes with them, and they're looking at me. Yeah.
So yeah.
I think the big one for me is probably curiosity, really, in the sense that in private banking and wealth management space, again, similar to what you said, I mean, if you have some knowledge about markets and some technical knowledge, it does help for sure. Not a bad thing to do, but for sure, by no means the most important skill to have. So I think, in my opinion, the most important thing is just being curious about things, because when you join an organization, that's what people are looking for, really. They're just looking for someone that is willing to learn, even if they don't have the knowledge on day one. It's fine, really, because even the technical stuff, you can learn it on the job, but you have to be able to have the willingness to learn it, right? So I think that's the biggest one for me.
Yeah. I'm just kind of going to repeat what everyone else says.
Sorry, you can go first next time.
Okay. Completely agree on the technical skills. I've always endorsed this. Maybe I'm a slight hater of like people like you and technical people that are good with numbers.
I'm
but
not technical.
No, yeah.
Says the guy with the masters in maths.
And the
Doesn't mean shit.
No, but agreed. Technical skills are good. They get you into the door. Like when I started out on the F&O desk and I didn't know what an option was, it wasn't a good look. Like, let's just put it that way. So if you're going on a desk and you know the products that you're working with, you should have like at least a high level definition, you know? Yes. I also think don't underestimate like basic skills like Excel. Like you're going into an internship, you need to know how to use Excel, because best believe that everyone else in your cohort knows how to use it. So like those skills, in my opinion, you do need to like have pattern before you start your internship, just so that by the time you get on the desk, you're not learning the basics, you know?
Yeah. No,
it just like puts you like a week or two ahead of the game.
No,
And usually you have a little gap between by the time you finish uni and like you have about a month or so at the time you intern. So like just leverage that gap. Don't do what I did. I went on holiday for like a month, but like, so do that. But again, agreed on the soft skills. I think don't underestimate the value of your network. It is so important. When people tell students to network, don't just get coffees for the sake of saying, oh my gosh, I got a coffee with this MD. Okay, what did you learn? Like, people don't want to give you the time unless there's like an agenda and a strategy. Hi, XYZ, Mr. Smith, I want to meet up. I want to set up this time with you and have a coffee because I'm interested in learning about this. You recently spoke about this initiative, this project, and I want to see how I can employ this in my desk, whatever, my learning. Like, have an agenda, strategize, and networking is really, really crucial because you might be introduced to other lines of business where you previously didn't learn about. That is super important, and that all leads in and encompasses the idea of soft skills and being able to talk to people. And
also, people love talking about themselves.
Yeah.
So like,
we've learned that on the podcast.
When you meet someone senior, just gas them up. You should gas them up, and that's how you build a relationship quickly.
Yeah.
And one thing I always say actually to people, because apparently I build trust quickly. I don't know what the fuck that means, but yeah, apparently like I do that. And the way I think I do it is because I'm constantly looking at the news. Like, I don't read every article, but I'll just look at headlines. Like when I'm on my way to work, just flip through the news, whatever. What that gives you is just overall analysis of loads of different kind of things, so that when someone says something, you can say, you have a counterpoint, you can pick up on that conversation. You're not going to be muted to that. So if someone talks about sport, I'll be like, I mean, I'm in sport anyway, but like, if someone talks about, I hate rugby, but I'll know about rugby stuff. Someone said, I was like, oh no, I didn't watch, but I know someone so-and-so won. And immediately they're going to respond to you, and you've made a little bit of a connection just there. And I always think that's the way to sort of build connections quite quickly. And there was one other point that I had when, sorry, Sammy was speaking, but I totally forgot. Take notes. One thing is my biggest pet peeve about juniors is like, So if someone does something wrong, right? Everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, right? But if you don't learn from their mistakes, so if you make the same mistake twice, I'll get pissed off at you. And I'm not the type to bollock, but I'll just say, I'm quite blunt. So I'll just say it straight to you. This is shit. Like, you did this last month. I told you like what to do to rectify it, and you've done it again. So what I do, I carry my laptop, because I can't read my handwriting, I'll be real. So I carry my laptop around me, use OneNote, and every meeting I have, I take notes. Even if it's nothing to do with me, I'll take notes. So I always have everything, and then I set up structures when I go in. So that's adding value. You need to look how to add value to be valuable. What you said was really good in terms of sort of being curious and stuff. That curiosity can be built from just adding small bits of value. Which I think that's what got me early promotions in my career, and also PowerPoint in my job. If you want to get into IB, PowerPoint and Excel are two things.
I think the point about notes is very interesting, because I think by taking notes in a meeting, you're actually building trust in a hidden way. Because by taking notes, when you're standing in front of someone and you're taking notes, you're just giving the person this sense of security that you're actually listening and you're actually comprehending what the people are saying, and then you're taking the actions, and you're not just like, well, all right, that's cool.
I mean, I'll be honest. I do in the ones where I don't have to say anything. I literally only do it because I fall asleep really easily when I get bored. I get bored really quick, and then my mind just goes, what are you doing, mate? So I literally do it to just keep myself awake. But it still works.
Exactly. And I just want to connect to what you both said as well about both like interpersonal skills, but also like, I just want to repeat what you said, because that was such a nugget. Like, you have to have value to add it in the first place. And you know what? I agree with the repeat offender juniors, because it's like an investment of the senior colleague taking them under your wing to show you something. And as well, it will change how you perform within the role. So do you want to progress, or do you want to stay at the same base of like, I'm going to keep coming across the same challenge, and how am I progressing, and how am I getting smarter and quicker in the job, and like progressing on to have more value to add it in new opportunities that come my way. So for example, when you guys were mentioning like, don't underestimate that you have an opinion to give. As a student, I was like too active, and I accidentally ended up in an ESG hackathon with like massive banks, Morningstar, and I was the only student in the room. And they're like, Sammy, what do you think? I'm like, one, why do they care?
I remember the story,
But at the same time, I just like he does, I really stayed in tune with the news and just like different things that banks were doing. So I was like, you know what, I've noticed a lot of this A, B, C, D, and how banks are approaching it, and I feel like there's this missing piece. And they're like, you know what, we never thought about that, and it leads to more things that they add. And that was, I mean, they shouldn't have got that from me for free, but happy to give. So it's just like logically thinking through what you're hearing in the interview will make you stand out, because then you have that understanding and you can add your context of what you're tracking, what you're intellectually curious on. So all those points are dotting together.
I feel like I'm getting called out as a repeated junior offender. Definitely on stuff.
Mate, take notes.
No. Where's my notepad?
Luckily, we're recording this time, so I don't need to take notes. I'll just watch it back.
Oh yeah. If you're an intern, don't leave anywhere without a notepad. That's what I would say too. You need to remember that.
Yeah.
Or a laptop for one
Or a
note.
laptop.
Exactly. Or at least if you're a memory person, just keep it there and have follow-up questions if you need in the future. Yeah. Because then that shows you engage with what we've talked about, and you're going to do something with it.
That's generally amazing, and I think it's provided a lot of advice for aspiring students, and of course ourselves as well. I mean, Nicole, I think I can note like 30 different things I've done wrong in that first coffee chat I did. It's fine. No,
You got called out.
No, but of course it's genuinely it is points for improvement, and hopefully like that's something that us and our viewers can digest. But then I think this is a great opportunity to move on to the next section of this industry roundtable. And of course, Harry, you were touching on it, and Samantha, you were touching on it a bit as well. So commercial knowledge, we all know how important it is for the industry in general. But then, can you guys talk to me about, I guess, your more specific divisions? How does commercial knowledge play into that? And what is your, I guess, routine to stay up to daily matters and affairs?
It's a good question. Shall I kick us off?
Go for it.
There's never there's never a point of like news and information I don't need to be in touch with, because I do really speak to like all endpoints of buy side. I even speak to sell side users as well. So a lot of the time I'm lucky enough to have access to the terminal for free day in, day out. So it's more just like engaging with my clients. But prior to being here, I used a lot of different resources. So I love Finimize. They're like a publication and they give you like that nice summary, and it's just human, you know, it's just like English. You're like ABCD, what does it mean, and what does it mean for you, what does it mean for the markets, and you can go about your day and move on, rather than be sifting through it, read it 5 times over and over, and you still don't feel like you took any nuggets away. So I really like that resource myself. In terms of how it impacts like what I do day to day, literally the clients could come in with a question and they're like, your derivatives data right now is completely incorrect, and I have to report this to the regulator and client. And then I see, okay, there's this new release for like how people are monitored by the regulators and how they distribute their reports to clients and what that means. If the client outputs like, for example, like a LIBOR, so like a LIBOR option, and then we're moving and transitioning to SOFR, what does that tell you? And do we have the right data and framework to support them with that? So yeah, keeping in touch with regulatory stuff, markets, the full suite is really key, because day in, day out, the clients are the ones needing to make sure their workflow, data and reporting is all aligned for that.
I think for me the big one is an FT, but a particular section of the FT I really like, and I think it's very relevant for the listeners, right? Because I think most of the students, they do have access to the Financial Times from their uni or from whatever source, but I really like they have this very cool section. It's called, I think, FT Live News, which basically gives you like 1 or 2 paragraphs for every headline, which is it's a very quick way to skim through the news with going into enough depth, but not spending too much time on a single news to kind of needing 2 hours to read everything, really. But I think with commercial knowledge, I think private banking, wealth management, what is very important is to actually think about what is underneath the news, really. Because in private banks, the clients of a private bank are usually often quite sophisticated, in the sense that when news comes out, they kind of already know about it. So you need to think about, how do I add value? Because if you just tell them the news, it's kind of like it's something they really know, right? So it's not really adding a lot of value, but actually thinking, okay, well, if we had an inflation data today and it was higher than expected, what does it actually mean for the market, right? What is the market pricing it? Has it changed in any way, or is it just like people are taking it a bit more easy this time? So I think this is the kind of the insight people value, because everyone can look at the data and see what's going on, but how is this impacting the whole movement in the market is quite critical. But that's just one example.
And can I add an example to that as well? Like in terms of like market movements and stuff, it's like that's just the foundational bit, is that the client digests the news and then they start to strategize, but they also need to know, what's the impact to my performance overall? Am I a fund manager? Am I in IB needing to position how I sell to my clients and sell, okay, let me package this news and be like, here's strategy 1 to strategy Z, and here's how I'm going to get you performance at the end of the day. And then on top of that, you start to layer, okay, how can I factor the risk aspect, get that risk analytic, produce it, and then also just go into further depth, depending on who you are in the market and what you're focused on and your end goal is.
So because I work in private markets, looking at like news about asset classes and what's going on in the markets is slightly less relevant from that perspective. Our market infrastructure is a lot more complex and a lot more opaque, because obviously we work with PE clients, not public companies. Anyway, so what I have to keep more up to date on is less exciting, but like regulation, that's a super important aspect. So I have regular touch points with the product partners every single week, because I need to understand like what's going on, and they break it down for me to be able to understand as a salesperson, to know what to communicate to clients. So regulation is really important. obviously working on the F&O desk was extremely different style. You have to be aware that obviously you need to be understanding where like futures are moving, etc. Package all that information before 7 a.m. Oh my God.
Wow.
I remember one time I released the market color at 7:01 and they were like, where is it? It needs to be before 7. So yeah, slightly less applicable in my role in terms of looking at the asset classes, but it's important for me to understand like what kind of fund structures are our clients looking at. I feel like actually talking directly to my clients, I get way more color than I would through Google. In terms of like what's going on, what's popular, like what are you guys looking at launching, etc. How can we adjust our operating model in order to serve you better as a client? And then that usually kind of creeps across the board in terms of what's going on in the industry. So mine's more about talking to people rather than researching.
I mean, one thing that, I mean, obviously you mentioned FT. I actually use Guardian. So the Guardian's Business Live, I always tell students this because a lot of students might not have access to FT. It just distills it more than FT, because obviously FT can be quite sophisticated and whatnot. And Guardian's just, for me, just so much quicker to get through more headlines. But their Business Live is actually a lot more responsive than the FT one. So everything happens a lot quick. Like you'll find out on Guardian like at least 15 minutes before than you find out on FT Live news. So it's just more responsive. I find it a lot better to use. And in my role, like you mentioned, you get it distilled. We're the people that distill it for our salespeople. So we have to sort of regurgitate all of that back and sort of put it in a way that it can be then sent to clients with the salespeople. And then just in terms of just investor outreach and stuff like I think what you mentioned in terms of getting info from the clients, that's always the best way. Because I work in public M&A and stuff, we have to be on top of the regulations and stuff. So just like listing rules, all the boring stuff, I'll be completely real. AIM rules, all that, honestly, I hate that stuff, but I have to understand what it means. And we actually have like, for instance, like a QE qualified executive who I actually sit next to one of the guys. So that guy's meant to know like everything. So I just go to him as like, oh, like he said this. So, you know what I mean? Just get back. But what's funny is he actually gets me to actually look it up. So I'm just like, so you don't actually know, so you're getting me to just do everything. But no, so so if you, for instance, if you have a list of clients on the floor, you have to have at least 4 QEs across the floor. That's a minimum, just with any investment bank anyway. So they're always good sort of resorts to go to if you do work on in IBD. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Amazing. So the Guardian, Finimize, the FT, of course, and all the other business, Market Maker, of course, and of course our podcast as well. I'm sure you're meant to say that as well. But again, we have questions for each of these sections, but you guys are answering it, very succinctly and holistically as well. So that's why we're moving on to the next session, which is more about kind of you guys, so dealing with challenges and stress at the same time. So we'll talk about stress a bit later on, but I do want to ask, and Nicole, we'll start with you if that's okay. What sort of challenges do you face on a day-to-day? And in your opinion, what do you find to be the toughest part of your responsibilities?
Oh, people.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I love my team.
You're not kidding.
I'm super blessed. No, I love my team. No, but like I think sometimes people and project management, when you see those memes where it's like how I want to reply to an email versus how you actually reply.
Yeah.
So that does happen a lot when there's friction. But what people underestimate in this business is like your internal partners and your internal stakeholders, so people that you work around, are just as important as your clients. Because obviously at the end of the day, like in my role, like I'm a salesperson, but in order to succeed as a salesperson, I need support from obviously my seniors, I need support from legal, product, loads of other people in order to actually like push a deal through and become mandated. So you cannot fight fire with fire. You can't jeopardize your internal relationships because otherwise nothing is going to get done. So sometimes when I have those moments when I just want to like ping people like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, answer me, please. I just have to like step away from the desk and go for a little walk because I'm like, that's just me managing myself and my own time and own people. So that can be really hard. I think what's also hard about sales is sometimes our success and our achievement to deliver a client is sometimes predicated on other people doing their job. And that's really frustrating because you're the one as a salesperson, you get the fire from the client directly, you take the heat, but like you can't be like, oh yeah, sorry, like Henry didn't do his job, like, oh, James in legal
Yeah.
didn't send me no, it doesn't, because you're the
Yeah, it
person
doesn't work
who's the
like
front
that. Got
person.
it.
You're the front facing person with the client.
Exactly.
Nothing you can do. They face off to you. So I think that and having that responsibility is also quite tricky.
Yeah.
So
And again, just opening up to the table as well.
I'll go last.
After you, sir.
I think for me, a big thing of I think not only my role but quite a lot of people. It just when you go to your job every day, to firstly think about how do I make the most efficient use of my time, right? Because especially when you're at a younger age, you just tend to being dragged into a lot of stuff, right? Random here and there. That's part of your day job, and then something else comes in. So it's just thinking about how do I make the most efficient use of my time? Do I spend an hour here, or do I need to be in that meeting at all? Can I just, instead of doing a meeting, get an email done? And just trying to think about not only my time, but how to make other people's time the most efficient as well. So I think this is a big one for me.
I think that just going off that point, just managing expectations. I think a lot of people and the hardest thing is when you're going into it as a grad into a new role, you're eager to impress a lot of the time, so you're not going to say no. And the thing is, I've done this in every single job. I had 5 jobs, right? Every job, what happens is I kill myself for like the first 6 months, whatever it is. As soon as you start to tail off a little bit, just because you are a little bit, you'll get pulled up maybe and be like, hey, what is something wrong, blah, blah. But the people who are like lagging behind, they'll never get pulled up, even though they're doing half the amount of work you're doing, just because you set a standard now.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say, oh, you should like just do the average. Like obviously do good, but there's like, you've got to make sure that if you're okay doing that level for a prolonged period of time, however long you're at that company, then that's that level you've got to set at you've got to set at the start of when you join, because otherwise, yeah, it's like I've had it happen every time I've worked, just because I set a standard which is probably something that I just get pissed off with at the end. I'm just like, why? Because I look around me, I'm like, they're getting paid the same as me, but I'm being asked to do so much more work because they trust me more. Whereas these guys will go home at 10 and I'm there till like 2 a.m. or whatever it is. I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? And that's when you start questioning everything. For me, the biggest pet peeve though, and I've actually, when I was younger, I was a lot worse at this, is I really used to get annoyed with people who couldn't get things as quickly as me. And I always thought people should be able to get things as quickly as me. And that's not the case. Everyone's got different learning abilities. Everyone's got, different things they're good at and different things they're bad at. And the quicker you come to terms with that, the better, because you have to understand how someone else works and how, because they'll have different strengths that you don't have. Like there's a lot of strengths that other people have that I don't have and things like that. And you have to manage to work with that, and sort of what you said in terms of biting your tongue, essentially. Like I've learned how to do that in a better way. But one thing you do realize when you do work, I work with people a lot more senior than me who have been to like the best business schools in the world and all this stuff. I'll be real, the one thing that separates someone, I believe, from being good and great is just common sense. And common sense is, unfortunately, it's not something that you can actually learn, I don't think. But common sense, if you've got common sense, if you apply that in the right way to academia or anything, you can go a very long way, rather than someone who's naturally smart. I've met so many naturally smart people and they say the dumbest shit. And I'm just like,
No,
I
it's
literally,
so true.
in my second job, right, I was like 23 years old, or whatever it was. I was like young, I'd been there 6 months, right? I don't know why I got credited for this, but I got credited for bringing in 140 million net new money into the company. Anyway, and then my boss is away, so I'm now having to facilitate this money coming into the company, blah, blah, blah. And I had the trader ring me up and be like, hey, Harry, so how do you want to do this? Do you want to like do this many trades on this day, and do you want to break it up and stuff? And I was like, well, won't that cause like more transaction fees, and then we'll make less money? And he's like, oh yeah, that's a good point, yeah. I was like, why am I telling you how to do your job?
It's scary.
And that, just little things like that, just, yeah, so, yeah.
I definitely resonate with your mention of managing those expectations. I definitely like agree. I have the same default of taking on too much for myself because my standards are sky high. And when I produce work, I know I'm proud of it and I'll put it in front of everyone and I'm like, yep, did that. Now I'm a subject matter expert on ABCD, and if you need me to train internal, external, whoever, I'm happy to do so. Or if you need me to align strategically with clients, do the projects, get them from this to Power BI visuals, I've got you. But then in terms of that, then you're too trusted to pick anything and everything up and do it at the best level, where there's people literally on the same pay or higher than you in the exact same position, and they're doing not even 20% of the same effort you're pouring in. So my manager works heavily with me these days on delegation.
Yeah.
No, but,
Because I'm
but
terrible
going
at
back to that point, if you're looking to stay there a long time, right, at that same company, work your arse off because
Yeah.
you'll get quicker promotions. If you're thinking about this as like a 2-3 year thing, I'll be real, just manage what you can, stay like above average and stuff. But if you're looking to like exit after that, then there's no point killing
So
yourself.
kind of coast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In a way.
No, because
Not
coasting the
coast,
wrong
no.
term,
Yeah.
because you don't want to be coasting because then you'll be found out. I know,
Yeah,
like
okay.
we've just had a guy who joined my team from Goldman's. Goldman's have the 10% thing every year.
Oh yeah.
So like,
You know what I'll coin it as? It's work smart, not hard. Simple as.
Yeah.
You got to know who's around you. And like she said earlier, internal stakeholders are just as important as your clients. So you could do your job a lot smarter and a lot faster by just engaging more people into it. And yeah, fair enough, you can still stand out. But like, I think keep an element of your knowledge is there and you're going to keep growing it and doing what you do. But leverage people around you, so that you don't have to like slave away and go home utterly drained.
No, but that way you get better expertise, you get a better standard of product as well, because you're leveraging their strengths rather than if you don't know how to do something as well, and you get a standardized product as well, which is better for the company.
Exactly.
I think it's an important point for a student as well, because they're like, oh, I got my first job, let me go 110% into it. And then, as you said, keeping that for a prolonged amount of time is a tough part.
I just want to say, I wanted to add to that because it's so true. Like, you do want to keep that standard within you, because then the more knowledge you have and the greater expertise you have, the more common sense you can apply, because it really does become a lot less common the higher up the hierarchy structure you go in a corporate.
That was amazing responses from everyone. But I guess kind of linking on to that question itself, could you guys talk to me about how stressed you get in the job, and then how do you actually handle that stress? Ivan, I'll start off with you.
Well, I think every job can be stressful in one way or another, right? So everyone experiences stress in a different way. That could be in the sense of, you've got 12 meetings in one day and you just need to talk to people constantly, and then you need to obviously get a lot of stuff done afterwards. So this obviously brings stress. Or it just could be a situation where I just need to get this done like in the next half an hour, and it has to be like good quality. So it comes in one way or another, really. But I think you just need to be able to think about what works for you in terms of stepping back, right? So I think what I usually do that works for me very well is when I'm at the office and I genuinely have a really packed day, I genuinely try to find like 5 minutes to go out and just make a walk around and come back. It's just really refreshing, right? And yeah, you just need to find something that works for you best. And outside of work, obviously, kind of pursuing your hobbies that genuinely kind of puts your mind somewhere else is really good. So for me, sport is a big thing, because I think in sport is one of the places where you put your phone aside for an hour or however long you wanna play, and you just think about the game and you think about how you wanna score a goal or a basket or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think these are kind of like the ways I deal with it personally.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. If I can just hop on from that, I'm an athlete, so like I'm very used to taking my stress out of my body. So my day consists of cycle to the office, 1 hour gym, and then cycle home, which just clears my head completely. Like it's been my biggest like mental health game changer. But I'm still learning, to be perfectly honest, how to handle different other types of stress. As much as I like to do my sports, I will have my wine nights too, because we all have our different outlets. And like you said, like you can't escape stress. So for me as well, family and friends are a big thing. Like, I'm so sorry to them because I vent to them too much. But yeah, just having that community around me.
Yeah, support system.
Exactly. It's so key.
Yeah. I combine my sports and my wine nights together. So
Same,
it's like
same.
just like off balance. It's like
Gym at 12, wine at
No.
6.
There is a drunk marathon in Bordeaux which you can
Yeah,
do.
there is,
I want to do it.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
got
I've
it.
seen.
I know someone would
Looks
know into that.
insane.
It's really good. It's really good.
Should we all go?
I'm planning to do it. I think tickets come out next month, so I'm planning to.
Nice.
So I'm really, really good and disciplined, I would say, with my time. Like obviously it's something I had to learn. Like I didn't initially have it. I had to do my FCA exams on the desk whilst working on the desk for the first 2 to 3 months. So like mental health, physical health was like not on time, just gone, which was a bit frustrating. But since all finishing that, now that I have a job, been in it just over a year, I'm really good at managing my time. Like I go to the gym 5 times a week, like family, friends, weekend, all the time. Super, super good with prioritizing, but that is a consequence of the culture that I have at the company and also my understanding of my manager plus my team. Like there are people on my desk, obviously, as you guys know, I'm not on an execution desk, so I'm not chained in the way that like I need to tell my manager I'm going to the toilet, watch my screen. I'm very, very fortunate in that sense. So therefore you do have like the occasional ED or junior saying, hey, I'm going to a workout class upstairs on the 7th floor for half an hour. Like you can do that because they trust you enough to manage your own time and to get your shit done when you need to get it done. So I think I'm just lucky in the sense that I'm good at prioritizing, but also my team and the culture of the business is very open to you dictating your own schedule. So.
Yeah, my company doesn't have that culture, unfortunately. It's basically just like even today when I had to sneak off, like my whole team was still there. I was like, fuck's sake, why is my MD still here? Because usually one of them just goes at like 4. But yeah, he was there and I was like, well, I'm just going to bounce.
Well, we appreciate it.
Oh, I don't give a shit anyway. So it's fine. But no. I mean, I was always going to trying to come on time. But yeah, no, I think the issue is like, so I used to be a massive gym person back in the day. And since working this job, my gym has been when I can fit it in, and that's not the way to do gym, because especially like, so I'd say the last 7 or 8 months I've been pretty chill. Prior to that, for about 2.5 years, I was probably living off like 4 hours sleep a night, which I got used to, which is fine. But
It's not fine.
no, I know. But the thing is, 5 is my optimal anyway.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah,
4
same.
hours sleep, but on 4 hours sleep, you can't go gym because your body needs to recover and rest, blah, blah, blah. So I would go gym, but then I'll be like, what is the point? Because I feel so weak in the gym. And I'm like, what is it? I'm literally sacrificed. So it's like, it is hard to keep that balance, especially in a job like mine. So yeah, basically just what you said about culture. Culture is very key. Try and find the company that works for you. And one thing I always say, because my end goal is never to work in finance. Like I told Scobby, like, I have my own business. I do music. Music is my number one thing. That has always been my own goal. So end goal. So for me, this is just a side quest essentially, and that's because I look at it as a job. What that helps me actually do though is separate sort of like your emotions from work and home life. Okay. So the issue is when you're in a job like mine and you're doing long hours, that essentially becomes your life because you're there all the time. And so sometimes it is hard to separate those emotions. So I do understand it. But because I look at it as like not a career, I look at it as a job, I think that I am able to separate it and not get too angry and not get, I mean, I get annoyed, but I never get angry. I don't get worked up. When I go home, I'm focused on my music, on my business. And like I have, the gym is my sanctuary and so is the studio.
You have to switch off.
They're my 2 places where I'm just like, yeah, this is like my thing. So you have to understand what's important to you and go for that. If IB is important to you, then do it. But and you have to be willing to sacrifice everything, but you have to live and breathe it. But I remember I spoke to you and I said to you that you have to absolutely love to do it. I think I'm just fortunate that I have different things going on, so I don't like have to really love it to do okay in it. But yeah.
Can I just add one holistic point as well? It's just like you really need to be like aware of the impact to your approach has on others in the workplace. It's like your team are your like go-to place because they're good around you, but also they're also being considerate and thoughtful of how they treat you as well. And I feel like you as an individual in the company have such a part to play in that as well. So like he said, like sometimes I get annoyed, but I can never be fully angry. And I've been in situations where colleagues are angry and project that onto me. And it's one of the scariest situations to be in, because I really fully see it as just a job as well. But not only that, I want to enjoy and feel like I'm in a safe space when I'm in the workplace. And that one interaction can just throw you off balance that slight bit. And you're like, actually, I don't feel too comfortable being around certain individuals after a while. So yeah, I think just having those things to take you away and take that step back is not only just for you, but also for others around you.
But you don't know what other people are going through as well.
Exactly.
I think that's the key. Like, that's something I learned quite early on, when I used to be a lot more blunt than I am now. Yeah, like I didn't do anything bad, but I remember being like, this is shit to someone, like I told you I do. And that person was going through something really personal. Like, they were like 10 years older than me, so they were going like through some sort of things with it, you know, personal stuff. And I felt really bad. So from that day, I was like, yeah, I need to start looking at other people's perspectives and understand that they could be just having a really shit day. You don't know what's going on in their life, so you need to understand from that perspective too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we wanted to talk a bit about work-life balance, but I think we actually have a little bit, and about how you know, switching off and finding sanctuaries within yourself to kind of stop thinking about work, for example. And I think it's something that students are, I mean, we've all heard the horror stories. We were talking a bit about it before recording as well. But I do want to move on to like the importance of diversity. I think luckily now we live in a day and age. I mean, we've spoken to professionals on the show that have been in the industry for years, and they remember when diversity wasn't such a staple within the industry. So I did want to kind of open to the table, ask what's your experience has been like with diversity within teams. I mean, luckily we've got such a diverse panel today, and we didn't actually plan for. So I think it showcases how much the industry has changed as well. So just to the table, any anecdotes to kind of add to that? I know it's a bit of a tougher question.
I can start. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll waffle like usual. My bad. In my second firm, I was actually the diversity and inclusion champion, just because it's something that I believe. Like, I've come from a household which, like, my parents had done very well, but they had literally nothing. So I saw my parents literally have nothing, and they built what they built. And I went to a private school for 2 years of my life, but apart from that, it's all state school. And one thing I really liked was that when I was at private school, I was the smartest kid in my year, smartest kid for the next 2 years by a mile. As soon as I went to state school, I met a kid in year 5. To this day, he's the smartest person I've ever met in my life, and it put me in my place. And I love that, because I was this guy like, duh, duh, duh. But so what I want to try and champion, especially where I'm at now, is I see a lot of white males who have been to public schools, been to private school and stuff, and that's not a bad thing. But the issue with diversity is, to try and get a balance, you actually have to go completely the opposite way. It's like a weight, right? Say if you've got a weight that's weighing down on this side, a scale, and in order to get to balance, you have to put something heavier down on this side, so it kind of like does this. And people don't really understand that. So in my second firm, I was one of the targets was to get more females into more leadership positions. So we started. I worked with the directors. We identified a few females who had that potential. Now males might be like, well, why are we not going to get this? Unfortunately, that's the way it's fucking going to work. Like, you have to go through the shit. I know that there's a lot of, in the last 10 years, there've been a lot of women days, for instance, like JP Morgan. I know they have like women days and things like that, where it was getting women into finance and things like that. And males will look at that and be like envious in that sense. But you have to come to terms with the fact that that's the way it has to work in order to kind of get some sort of equality. But one thing I really want to just touch upon before I move on is, people just think as diversity is in colour, and there's so much other things to diversity, like, and that's sort of what I'm trying to champion here. So we just hired an analyst, for instance, in my team, and I find it funny. So we had the first batch of CVs we had 15 through. And what I did was I listed them all out, got all their CV details, blah, blah, blah. And if they didn't have their schools on, I Googled, like, went on the LinkedIn, found out which schools they went to, if it was a fee-paying school or not. And I did all this. And the guy next to me was like, because his kids go to one of the best schools in the country. And he was like, oh, is that what you're doing? I was like, yeah. I said, if we've got two people who are equal, one's been to private school education and one's not, just for equality, because there's barely any state school people in my company, I'm going to push through the state school person. Personally, that's just my, and maybe it's the bias because obviously that's my background. but there aren't people in my company who speak like me, like with an accent. Like people have very southern, really nice, like, you know, the Queen's English kind of accents. And I mean, that's not a bad thing, but there are different perspectives you can get. For me, I see a hunger from people who have been from state school backgrounds that you don't really get. Sometimes you do, I'm not saying, but there's a different type of energy you get.
Yeah.
So true. So true.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I think the point about kind of how people see diversity, it's a lot of different things, right? So I think the beauty of diversity comes in when different components of diversity come in the right place, on one place, right? So what I mean is, so diversity could be gender, could be race, could be nationality, could be a lot of other things, right? So I think the beauty of diversity comes in when you've got different nationalities, different genders, different races at the same place. This is genuinely the moment you realize how powerful diversity is. So thankfully for me, all the places I've been to, including my university, have been very diverse from a lot of different angles. So I think that was very nice for me, because I'm an international, right? So I'm in a foreign country. So for me personally, diversity is genuinely a really important thing, because I've been in situations where, you know, I sit in a table full of Brits and they start talking about cricket, right? So I don't know anything about it, which is kind of natural, right?
Yeah.
So you know, in moments like this, I kind of, you know, realize that diversity is very nice, especially in the workplace, right? Because when people come from a different country or from different part of a country, it genuinely kind of brings up a different perspective on a certain problem, and it's a very healthy thing for the company, because some ideas are challenged in a very healthy way rather than in an arrogant way. So that's the thing for me, really.
I'm also just going to speak on myself as a person, and I get the most excited when I'm in a room full of like people that have grown up in different places and they've never been in one place for too long, because they're so exposed, and it just changes their perspective, and how they can like contribute to conversations is just wildly to me. So that's what excites me. I don't see race, I don't see genders, I just see a person, and it's like, can I respect you based on what you've experienced through life and how exposed you are? Because yeah, you can come from the UK or from Spain, but if you're in a bubble and narrow-minded, that's a room I don't want to be in, and I find quite scary, because then that leads to groupthink and a lot of like siloed ways of thinking. So that's how I see diversity.
That was such a good ending note. I can't write that now. No, but completely agree. Like, the idea of diversity is to challenge and battle groupthink. And as everyone's already mentioned, diversity is not about just like gender, race, colour. It's about diversity of thought, right? That's why, as you said, important to look to hire people from different backgrounds, because if you're hiring the same James Smith from whatever it is, Eton, and you give them a problem, they're all going to respond to it in the same way. You know, so that's where the value and importance of diversity comes in. And I feel like, unfortunately, these days diversity is like a dirty word, kind of like ESG. You know, people do a lot of like greenwashing and do like, oh my gosh, you know, we're doing this for Pride, this Black History Month. What are you actually doing? What's sad is that you don't really know what's going on with companies until you're in it, until you're actually there.
Yeah, it's difficult.
So it's hard.
I think it's important to say that it's not that the firm's not doing diversity just for the sake of it, but actually, as you said, to combat groupthink and actually to get value from different people.
No, so in the Big Four firm that I worked at, the first thing you did in your induction, you had to do like this test. And it was like I don't know if every company does it. It's like 4 colours kind of thing. You're like a driver, an integrator, blah, 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 whatever it is. And what it's meant to do is that a successful team will have elements of everyone from that. It won't just have all drivers, because you'll then not have people actually doing the work. You just have people who are saying, we need to get this done. We need to get this done. And you need to encompass all thoughts, what you just mentioned. I think that's a great point you made. All thoughts of, all thinking, and go from there. And yeah, I want to just pick up actually, so the place I'm at now, I'll be real, like, shocking. So I joined their D&I committee, and after 6 weeks, it was me and like 4 other people. Went from 20 people to 4 people, 5 people, whatever. And then nothing was put in place. It was like, I'm this person, I like action. I like, you have a plan, you act on it, you execute. I don't like, what's the point of just chatting shit about stuff that doesn't get done? Like, I hate that, and that's what that turned into. And then I started challenging things. I started saying, well, do we have this in place? And they were like, oh yeah, we're thinking about that. I'm like, what the fuck? That was in companies 20 years ago. So.
You know what I'd like to finish off with as well? It's just like, I feel like that injection of pure integrity displays the difference between washing that you're doing DE&I and actually implementing it. I feel like it's very easy for like companies to be like, well, we've got this program, we've got this initiative, but like, what for? And like, how are you helping colleagues that stay in the company, not the ones coming in, and attract them through, oh, the women's program, this or this, that. But what's going on inside? And like she said, unfortunately, you do find out once you're there only the reality of the sitch. And it's always good to be aware of it, but also try and shift the dial and help the company get to a better place.
I think can I a quick point that made me thinking just for the benefit of the student, because as you both pointed, it's quite difficult to kind of judge how diverse company is really before you join. But I think for the people listening, is quite useful, especially when you're applying to job. Is just to the more you dig into what initiative the company is doing, the more you realize what is being important to them. Because let's say if you open up their diversity report and 20 pages of that is for gender pay gap, obviously kind of like the gender part of the diversity is very important for them. So if you're really passionate about gender diversity, that's obviously probably a good thing. But then if you're actually coming from a diversity from a different point and the company is not even addressing it in their public documents or whatever it might be, probably they're not really focused on that. So I think that is very helpful, just to actually focus on the things that really matter for you as a diversity.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, because the way I see it is that there's talent in every demographic. So you can't really pick out one person and say, okay, this demographic are better than this. No, there's talent across the field. It's what opportunities do those individuals have for them to achieve like roles that they dream of or roles that they're more suited of. So I guess that's where this whole idea really needs to be attacked, like across the industry, across every job in the world, basically. But I think it's been such a great episode, and we will be finishing off with one final question. And so, what's the best piece of advice you guys have received? Super blunt, but well, what do you guys say?
I'll go last. I gotta think about it first.
It doesn't just have to be career; it can be anything. It doesn't even have to help students, just like something that helped you personally as well.
All right, I'll go first. I've got one, a career one, which was actually pretty fundamental for me when I started working in finance. So I think quite a common trait for university students, and I was exactly like that when I was in uni, is when you're in university, you're thinking 10, 15 years ahead, and you're like, by 25 years age, I need to be in this position, in this company, this location. I need to have achieved X, Y, and Z. But actually, the reality is it doesn't always happen by the way you think it. So I think the best advice I've received is just be patient with your career, because sometimes you just need to wait some time for the right opportunity to come to you, right? Because every single person has, this imaginable path of their career where everything works by the book. But in reality, the reality is it's not always working by the book. So I think just being patient and waiting for the right opportunity is quite a useful and healthy thing to do, because it will just kind of broaden your horizons, really. So I think that was probably something that was very, very fundamental for me, and it definitely changed kind of my view about career and how do I approach it, really. So I think it was a great piece of advice I got.
That's what I was going to say.
No.
Very similar. An MD that I met in my first few months, he told me in our one-to-one. I mean, it's kind of like, people might say it's cringy, they've probably heard it before, but it's honestly really good and applicable. It's the idea that your career is not a sprint, but a marathon. So that links to the idea of being patient, right? So this really resonates with me, because as we talked about putting 110% when we first get into a job, like you're so good wanting to prioritize getting things out quickly that you end up sacrificing quality. So take your time with learning the product, learning the client set. There's no rush to be operating at thinking you're going to be an MD level when you're an analyst. Like, take the time to learn your client set, take the time to learn your products, and obviously to build your network. So these things aren't going to happen overnight. So
Great advice.
Love that. Mine's very simplistic. And I've received all ranges of advice. I've been in front of multiple types of people, but my simple one is don't be lazy.
It's great advice.
And that actually came from one of my ex-bosses, so I don't know what that says about me. No, I'm joking. But it was more just like, don't be lazy in everything I do, especially work-wise, because it can be very easy to become complacent. And even as a student, you might feel like, oh, you know what? I've got everything in my toolkit. I've done the right things, spring internship-wise, da-da-da. But then you might close yourself off to more opportunities and just getting yourself out there. So yeah, my one's don't be lazy.
I've got two pieces. So one's something that was told to me by my favorite ever boss, which is my second boss, a German guy. Yeah, like you think German people are so organized. No, he was the complete opposite. Anyway, coolest guy, coolest boss I ever worked with. And when I quit, we went for a beer like a couple of months after. And he said to me, you need to, the way to do something that you love and something that you're good at, he goes, find an industry first that you love. Whatever industry that is, find that industry. Now, you have to be true to yourself and pick 3 characteristics that are your strengths. Once you pick them 3, then match a role within that industry, then you'll love what you do and you'll be good at it as well. And yeah, that's when he told me I was...
That's really good.
That's when he told me I was
really
quick at building trust. He said I was quick at building trust. He said, I'm smart, but I'm no Einstein. And then
That's a bit of a backhanded one.
and then he said something else to me. Well, I can't remember what the last one was. And then my personal advice just to people is just do what you love. Because at the end of the day, the key to life, I believe, is happiness. And whatever drives that happiness, you should do. If it's making money, doing an IB job, then do that. But make sure you love it. Do what you love. Like, I love making money, but I'll be real, I'm not going to get the type of money I want from working in investment banking. That's like a few mil or whatever it is. I'm talking like big boy money. But like, so I want to do what I love. I love making businesses. I love doing my music. That's what I want to do. And this day and age, because of the way we live, like with social media and stuff, you actually have the opportunity to do what you love if you want it bad enough.
Yeah.
And consistency and hard work will always pay off more than talent. So just go for it.
Yeah. May not be exactly at the moment you're thinking of, but it will come at some point for sure. Yeah.
What a way to end it. I mean, that's why we asked that question. So it's a great way to end the episode. I mean, first of all, I want to thank everyone that joined us today. I mean, it's been genuinely amazing, and for our first ever episode of our rebrand, I don't think we could have done it any better. As long as you guys enjoyed it as much as we did as well.
Absolutely. By all means.
Thank you so much. And I know our viewers and listeners, we hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did. And welcome again to the Smart Money Show. This is our rebrand. And we're not just going to be a podcast anymore, but we're going to do newsletters. We're going to do short form vlogs. We're going to do blogs. We've got interns, journalists, writers that will be bringing out insights. And that's why we have become Smart Money, or at least we like to think so. But thank you again. And if you are watching us on YouTube and you haven't already hit that subscribe button, then be sure to do so with the notification bell on so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. And check us out on our social media platforms as well, because we post events and other bits on there that you won't see on any other platforms as well. Again, thank you so much for watching.
Shout out to Noman and shout out to
shout
out to the guys behind the cameras as well. All this sick jobs, so thank you.
No, well done, guys. Honestly.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And yeah, see you again next week for another episode of the Smart Money Show. And please do stay tuned.